Ukrainian economic migrants since 2014, prompted by the war in the Donbas region as well as the plummet of the hryvnia against the dollar. In the years leading to the pre-war times, they proved to be invaluable for the Polish economy.
Poland's labor shortage problem was mitigated by 1.4 million economic migrants from Ukraine, who contributed 13% of Poland's total historical GDP growth between 2013 and 2018.
But it was the Russian invasion of Ukraine that led to the biggest population movement in Europe since World War II. Poland has stood by the war-torn country since day one and welcomed one of the highest number of refugees, offering them benefits, housing and work opportunities. In 2022, 1.5 million Ukrainian citizens who fled the war received a Polish identification number, 900,000 of which have already found employment in the country. But since a vast number of Ukrainian men left Poland to join the ranks of the army or could no longer live in the country, Ukrainian women now outnumber their male counterparts in the Polish workforce. Women accounted for 64% of working Ukrainian nationals in 2022, according to data from the Polish Economic Institute. This is a sizable increase compared to pre-war times, when their share stood at 45%. The outflow of Ukrainian male manual workers has had a significant impact on the Polish employment market. The rise in female workers also includes industries which require physical strength, one of them being the meat processing industry.
Refugee women have done very well in this industry, as it requires high levels of concentration, cleanliness, and high sanitary standards. This is because one of the most important issues is safety and the quality of the product. What is also crucial, you can work in shifts.
Korszun added that the women are better suited for the industry, which is constantly faced with a shortage of workers because they don't change jobs as often as men. Additionally, the automation of industries such as meat processing and warehousing means that the work organization skills are more sought after than physical strength these days. Out of the 5,000 manual workers hired through the Gremi personal employment agency, 51% were women. Female workers accounted for the majority in the meat and warehousing industries at 75 and 55% respectively. But this also applies to the white-collar sector, where women accounted for 71% of the total hired workers.
And joining us now to discuss the Ukrainians on the job market is Eugene Pozharski, a job market expert, international job market expert, I might add. Eugene Pozharski, thanks very much for joining us. First time on Business Arena.
Thank you.
Yes. And tell me, just to start off with, what is the job market like at the moment? Is it a hard time for employers to find workers?
For now, it's a lot of job efforts, really a lot of. And as you said, there is some issues. Firstly, the lack of male workers. We have our statistics and our researches. For example, before the war, right before the war, 60% of all workers were men and 40% were women. Now it is the opposite situation.
Right. That's among Ukrainians who have come to work in Poland.
Yes, absolutely. And now it's the opposite. Now we see, because we have more than 12,000 Ukrainian workers through our company every year, now it is 65% of women and 35% of men. It's quite equal, but there is a lot of working places and there is no problem for people to find the work. But there is an interesting issue, because before the war, a lot of Ukrainian workers were seasonal workers. They came here for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, earned their money and came back to Ukraine. But for now, people come here for a longer period of time. They understand that they have to stay here for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, or until the end, the war will finish. And it means that more and more people are looking for the jobs which are highly qualified, because we know that a lot of Ukrainians worked in building the industry, in gardening, in warehousing and logistics, in a meat industry, fish industry, and so on. Now, an enormous amount of people are looking for jobs which they had in Ukraine, white-collar jobs. It's like office managers, accountants, bankers, and so on and so on.
Now, so tell me that, because in actual fact, I have this statistic that 55% of refugees who've come to Poland are actually graduates? Are they finding jobs within their fields?
They do find jobs, but it's a temporary decision because 50%, 55%, as you said, are graduates, and 87% of people who came from Ukraine have higher education. It means that they want the jobs which they had in Ukraine, as I said. So they had a lot of jobs, but there is a language issue also.
Right, and in terms of this language issue, because I mean, people from Ukraine have been coming here for a long time. Initially, a lot of people from Western Ukraine, where they speak Ukrainian, and it's pretty easy to jump from Ukrainian itself to Polish because the languages are a little bit closer. How are people maybe from the west of Ukraine who've come from cities like Kharkiv, how are they faring on the job market?
To be honest, there is no real difference because I'm Russian-speaking Ukrainian, but I also know Ukrainian, yes. So all the people from eastern Ukraine, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Lugansk, they also knew Ukrainian. So there is no difference whether you spoke Ukrainian or Russian in Ukraine, how you learn Polish. Okay. It is, let's say, you have to pay the similar amount of attention and force to learn Polish. And we had research on August 2022 that 52.3% of Ukrainians who came after war started already started to learn Polish. And 27% of people said that they're going to start learning it in the nearest 2 or 3 months. It means that for now, 75% plus are learning Polish or already know it on the basic level. And we predict that in the second part of 2023, more and more people will claim to find jobs where they can use Polish language, because if you're working on a building sphere or you're working on the meat industry or heavy industry, you don't need Polish. But if you want to be a banker or accountant, as you were in Ukraine, you have to use Polish. So we're expecting dozens of thousands of people who will work in those spheres when they know Polish properly.
Now, one of the interesting issues of women entering maybe spheres which were traditionally male-orientated, like the meat industry. Now, I mean, I remember even years ago that you would see on the streets of Kiev, of other cities in the former Soviet, or at that time the Soviet Union, you would see women doing jobs which in the West were rather strange to actually see women doing, like tram drivers, etc. Are Ukrainian women less fearful of taking on tougher jobs?
Good question. First of all, this trend was part of a Soviet political and economical system where everybody were, let's say, equal. But we don't see really big change or serious processes when women start doing, like, working in the heavy industry or building. But more and more they start doing something which doesn't require a really physical work, but which was traditionally male profession. For example, in your video before, you've shown the forklift in warehouses. Traditionally, it was the man job. But now it is a job for women. And for example, our company, it's one of the initiatives of our company that we relearn women to drive and to get license
for forklift trucks. Well, it's a fascinating subject. I very much appreciate you joining us on Business Arena. That's Eugene Pozharski, job market expert, who's one of the authors of that report by Gremi. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now more stories in our quick fire round, starting with a story about